everybody, and welcome to Storm Reads. And today I'm going to talk about books that I thought were surprising to me, that I enjoyed them. Ones that, I was a little hesitant or I didn't know exactly what I would think about them, and then they surprised me because I really enjoyed them. And you will notice that I'm probably going to have the same shirt on in several videos because I'm recording these like back to back so I can get them done. And so the first book that I'm going to talk about is A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson. And this is the first book in the Good Girl's Guide to Murder series. I'm usually pretty hit or miss with young adult mysteries. So I always go into them thinking that if I like it, I'm probably just going to give it 3 stars. It's going to be just, so-so, okay. I usually can figure out who done what and everything. But this one was pretty surprising to me. It says, the case is closed. 5 years ago, schoolgirl Andy Bell was murdered by Sal Singh. The police know he did it. Everyone in town knows he did it. But having grown up in the same small town that was consumed by the murder, Pippa isn't so sure. When she chooses the case as a topic for her final year project, she starts to uncover secrets that someone in town desperately wants to stay hidden. And if the real killer is still out there, how far will they go to keep Pip from telling the truth? This one is, it's kind of told in kind of a little bit of a podcast form. I don't know how the actual book is, but I know I listened to this one. And so it had what it seemed like interviews and notes and her doing recordings, like cassette recordings and things like that, because she's doing this for a school project, and so she interviews people and you get to kind of hear it, and it kind of came out on the audio to me as like a little bit like a podcasty type. So if you like those kinds, then you'd probably like this. But I really found it very interesting. It was very engrossing. I was really into trying to figure out, did Sal really do this or did somebody else do it? And it seems like the more and more she interviews people and talks to people, it's like that maybe the police just didn't do a very good job because nobody could figure this out. But she's pretty determined to figure out who done it. And it was really enjoyable. And I know there is another book, and I can't wait to get to that one, but I haven't got to it yet. But yeah, I really found it pretty interesting, and I liked Pippa overall. She was a pretty good character, and so it just surprised me how well that I actually liked this book. Okay, so the next book that I'm going to talk about is called Mary Underwater by Shannon Doleski. And this is a middle grade contemporary, and I don't really do contemporaries, whether it be adult or whatever. And so to read like a middle grade contemporary, that's usually something I don't do a whole lot of. But this year I decided to, give a few of them a try, and I was very surprised at how much I actually enjoyed them. And this one, it has Mary Murphy feels like she's drowning. Her violent father is home from prison. A social worker is suspicious of her new bruises. An aunt she never met keeps calling. And if she can't get a good grade on their science project, she'll fail her favorite class. But Mary doesn't want to be a victim anymore. She has a plan. Build a real submarine like the model she's been making with Kip Dyer and the secretly sweet class clown. Gain courage from her heroine, Joan of Arc. Mary vows to pilot the sub across the Chesapeake Bay, risking her life in a modern crusade to save herself. Mary Underwater is an empowering tale of persistence, heroism, and the hope for a luminous new voice from middle grade fiction. And so, yeah, like I said, I really wasn't sure what I would think about it, but I really enjoyed Mary. She was going through a rough patch, with her father and the abuse, and she gets to make this little model submarine with Kip, and she gets to see a whole new side of Kip too. And Kip was probably my favorite character. He was just so sweet and so cute, and I just really adored him. And when she decides, because Joan of Arc is like her favorite character of history, and so she decides, she's going to, take a page from her, I guess, and, be her own true self. And yeah, she decides that she wants to build a real life submarine, and she gets some help from an adult, and she attempts, to build this. That's what she's going to do, and I really really enjoyed it. It was really good. I think kids could enjoy this as well as adults, and get a little bit of something out of it, because Mary just wasn't going to be a victim anymore, and I really really enjoyed that. And so yeah, this one, it just really surprised me that how much I really liked it. So speaking of contemporary, I have another middle grade contemporary that I was very surprised that I liked. It makes me think that maybe I would like more contemporary works if I would give them a try, especially like middle grade ones maybe. I've tried enough young adult ones and I know I'm not really a big fan, so maybe I just prefer the middle grade ones. I don't know. Anyway, this one is called A Field Guide to Getting Lost by Joy McCullough. I hope I'm saying her name right. And it's about a girl with passion for science and a boy who dreams of writing fantasy novels must figure out how to get along now that their parents are dating in this lively, endearing novel. Sutton is having robot problems. Her mini robot is supposed to be able to get through a maze in under a minute, but she must have gotten something wrong in the coding, which is frustrating for a science-minded girl like Sutton, almost as frustrating as the fact that her mother probably won't be home in time for Sutton's 10th birthday. Lewis spends his days writing thrilling stories about brave kids, but there's only so much inspiration you can find when you're stuck inside all day. He's allergic to bees, afraid of dogs, and has an overprotective mom to boot. But Luis can only dream of daring adventure. So Luis can only dream of daring adventures in the wild. Sutton and Luis couldn't be more different from each other, except now their parents are dating. These two have to find some kind of common ground. Will they be able to navigate their way down a path they never planned to explore? And so, yeah, it is really kind of a cute story about two different families trying to come together to make one family, because the parents are dating, and the girl and the boy could be so very different. You've got the science-minded girl, and then the boy who's allergic to just about anything, and he never goes outside. But on one time, the parents decide to take their kids on a hike, even though, it could be bad. But, Lewis wants to do it. He wants to do something fun. He wants to be outside. The two kids take a wrong turn, and they get lost in the woods, and they kind of have to rely on each other and find that, even though they are extremely different, there are things that they know that could help each other get out of the situation they've gotten in. Lewis, even though he doesn't know a whole lot about science and coding, can give her ideas on how to fix her problems, and Sutton could help him overcome some of his things of being afraid and things like that. And so it was just really cute, and I think it's a really good book for kids to read, especially this day and age when there's a lot of melding of families and everything. And I think it would just be a good book for people to read. And I really enjoyed it, and it surprised me that I really enjoyed it. So I might as well just go ahead with the other middle grade book that I have on here. And this is a middle grade fantasy, and it's about 3 royal siblings, and they are forced into exile on an enchanted moving island. Ex-Princess No has 2 missions: reclaim her family's stolen throne and ensure that the dark powers her older brother Julian possesses doesn't go to his head in the process. But between babysitting her annoying little sister Mite and keeping an eye on the cake-loving sea monster that guards the moving island, Noah has her hands full. When the siblings learn that there's an enemy searching for a weapon capable of defeating Julian, whose legendary spell weaving is featured throughout the kingdom, once and for all, they vow to get to it first. To everyone's surprise, the key to victory turns out to be long-lost magic language, and only Noah can speak it. And so I'm kind of hit or miss when it comes to fantasies of any kind, and more more than likely I do enjoy the middle grade fantasies, but I've never read anything from Heather Fawcett, and I know she wrote a I think a young adult series, a fantasy series, and I heard about it, but I've never read it. So I wasn't sure going into this one exactly what I would think of it, and I ended up really enjoying it a lot. It was pretty fast paced, and I really enjoyed the like island and the sea monster. It was pretty funny. Um, Julian has tethered like this sea monster to the floating island to kind of help ward away the bad people, because the sea monster does like to eat people. And she found out one day that the sea monster would tell her things if she would feed it cake. So it's a cake loving sea monster. And so yeah, it was pretty fun. Noah, I don't say she's about 11 or 12, so she's got her hands full with her older brother. He knows all the languages, or at least all the languages that they know of, I think, which was like 9 languages. And whenever somebody knows all of the languages and can speak the languages, they're kind of deemed as an evil person, which is what happened when I guess the kingdom, one of the guys from the kingdom, I can't remember his name, kind of led a revolt and everything, which is why they got exiled, because he killed their mother because she could speak all the languages. And so they're wanting Julian too, because they know that he could be bad too. But Noah doesn't think her brother's bad, although sometimes he does some things that makes her think that maybe he could go bad. And so she takes it upon herself to try to, make sure that that doesn't happen. And it was just a really fun and interesting story. And I think I liked that it's not a series. It was a standalone. You get to find out, you get kind of the resolution at the end. At least I think it's a standalone. I mean, I haven't seen anything about it being a series or anything. And it was just really interesting, and it was enjoyable fantasy. And so it just surprised me that I enjoyed it as much as I did. So the next one that I'm going to talk about that I was really surprised. I was really surprised at how much I like this, seeing that it is about a polygamy town. I'm not really big on the whole learning about polygamy and all that kind of stuff. I've never watched Sister Wives. It's never been anything that I've had any kind of an inkling to even care about knowing about. But whenever I saw this series, it's a detective series coming out, and it was set in the polygamy town. I was kind of curious. I didn't think I would like it that much, but I thought, I'd give it a good go and see. And I actually enjoyed it quite well. I've read the first 2 books came out this year. So the first book that I read was The Fallen Girls, and then the second one was Her Final Prayer. And this is the book 1 and book 2 in the Detective Claire Jeffries series. And in the first one, Detective Claire Jeffries has spent years running from her childhood in Albert, Utah. But when she hears that her baby sister Delilah has disappeared, she knows that the peaceful community will be shattered and her family vulnerable, and that she must face up to her past and go home. Claire returns home to find that her mother, Ardith, has isolated her family by moving to the edge of town in the shadows of the mountains. Ardith refuses to talk to the police and won't let Clara through the front door, believing she and her sister wives can protect their own. But Clara knows better than anyone that her mother isn't always capable of protecting the children. So yeah, she comes from a big family, like I said, because it's polygamy. So you had her father, and I think he had 4 wives, and then one of them has passed on, so there's 3 left. She comes home and she finds out that her father has passed on, that she didn't even know that, because nobody cared to get a hold of her, because she's a fallen girl. And that's what they call them whenever they decide they want to leave home and they run off or whatever. They're fallen. And there are some other girls that have gone missing, and everybody just considers them fallen girls, and nobody ever investigates anything. But whenever Delilah goes missing, and she's only, I think, 12, one of the guys that gets involved, I believe his name is Matt. He is a lost boy, and that's what the boys are called when And that's why I thought it's stuff that I kind of found fascinating after getting into this. Lost boys are boys in that community that they kick out of the community because you can't have too many men, because then you can't marry all these women. And so if they think that a young boy, is going to potentially, be like rivals to the older guys, they kick them out. Like when they're 18, they give them like $300 and they just kick them out, and they got to kind of fend for themselves. It's really messed up. And he was one of those, but he has come back to Albert, and he's a policeman there. And so whenever he sees that Clara's sister was the one that's missing, he calls her and lets her know because she's in Dallas. And then she comes back, and yeah, like nobody wants to talk to her. She's an outsider. She left the faith. She is nothing to them. And so it was very hard for her to figure out what happened when nobody wants to talk to her. It was really surprising. I thought that I enjoyed it as much as I did because I was really leery of the polygamy aspects and that kind of situation, because it's just not something that I'm interested in. But then it was kind of fascinating whenever you kind of get into it, and something different and unusual, I think, for a murder mystery series, and I think that's why I liked it so much. The last book I'm going to talk about is Stephen King's Christine. I'm kind of hit or miss with Stephen King. I used to love Stephen King when I was a teenager, but then I kind of grew out of it. And a lot of it is because his books are so thick. But, yeah, there was just this time whenever everything that I read from him I loved. Now I've gone back and I've listened to some of them, and some of the ones that I thought I really, really enjoyed as a teenager, I absolutely don't like anymore. So I never read Christine, and I'd seen the movie a long time ago, and I was really curious about it. I mean, how much can you write about a car that kills people? And yeah, I was really surprised at how much I liked it. This was probably my favorite Stephen King book that I read this year. I had one that I absolutely hated, but yeah, I really enjoyed this. I don't hear a lot of people talk about Christine, and it might not be a lot of people's favorites, but it surprised me how much I liked. So Christine is about Arnie, who he's really bookish and he's bullied in high school, and he's really wanting a car. And he's been saving his money up. And his friend Dennis, they find this car, but this car is like a rust bucket. It's just really bad shape, and he really wants it. He's really drawn to it. And the guy who's selling it to him, telling him all about it and how good a car it was. And he decides to get it, and he's going to fix it up. Against his friend's judgment, he makes his parents mad over it. And the more work that Arnie puts into the car and fixing it up and making it look more like new, the stranger Arnie starts to act. And he's really, really getting weird and sickly looking. And it's really, really, the car is possessed, and it's getting to him. It's kind of taking him over. And Christine's a very jealous car. She doesn't like it when others are taking up Arnie's time. She wants Arnie all to herself. And she's not afraid to drive around on her own with nobody driving it and eliminate the people that she don't like, or the people that, if you do something bad to Arnie, you could be on Christine's hit list. And so, yeah, I was really surprised at how much I really, really enjoyed this one. And it's always fun. I like going back, and I've been trying to make it through a lot of Stephen King's because, like I said, nowadays I'm kind of hit or miss, so it's kind of fun to find the ones that I do like and the ones that I don't like. And this happened to be one that I liked. So that's all the books that I have for the books that I was surprised that I enjoyed this year. And so I hope you liked this video, and if you did, give it a thumbs up and subscribe, and I will see you all in the next video.